אהלן חברים, עסקי המוזיקה, פרק חדש בכל שבוע. אם אתם אוהבים ורוצים לעזור, תעשו לייק, סאבסקרייב, יוטיוב, ספוטיפיי, וואטאבר, ובואו תהיו חלק מהקהילה. היום אירחתי את אדם פיין. אדם הוא הבוס שלי בפייבר. בעצם הוא הוורטיקל מנג'ר של המוזיקה ואודיו בפייבר. זה אומר שהוא אחראי על כל הוורטיקל של מוזיקה ואודיו. ודיברנו על ההזדמנויות שיש שם למוזיקאים. דיברנו גם, אדם הוא גם יוצר מוזיקה, דיברנו על ספוטיפיי ועל מרקטינג, ועל באמת הרבה דברים מעניינים. היה פרק מעולה, ויאללה, בוא נצלול ישר לזה. Hello, what's up? I'm here with Adam Fine today. Adam is a friend and a colleague, and we're here to talk about the new age of musicians, of session musicians, of producers working online. Adam is working with me at Fiverr, and he's the manager of music and audio category in Fiverr.
Yeah.
And he will explain everything much better than me in a second. And he is also a musician and like a bunch of stuff. So this is what we're gonna do today. I'll just let you introduce yourself, Adam.
Awesome. Ken, thanks for having me. So yeah, like Tiff said, I manage the music and audio vertical at Fiverr, which is online marketplace for freelancers as a whole. Besides that, I'm also a musician, producer, audio engineer, and been producing for 10 plus years. And I'm sure we'll go into different parts of what I do, but yeah, day to day managing the music and audio vertical at Fiverr, making sure our freelancers have all the tools to succeed.
Yeah, so that's cool. How long have you been at Fiverr?
It's been like half a year now, I think. And so yeah, it's going well. It's a complicated job, but loving it.
All right, that's nice. אז
Yeah.
שתקבלו קצת רקע, אני גם התחלתי לעבוד בפייבר לפני חודשיים. אני עכשיו עושה את מה שאדם עשה לפניי, שזה בעצם לעשות וטינג לאפליקציות שמגישים לפייבר פרו. בעצם החבר'ה שמגישים את האפליקציות, אז אני מסתכל עליהם, מסתכל על תיק עבודות, לראות שזה ברמה שאנחנו מחפשים בפייבר פרו. ואדם הוא זה שאחראי על כל הקטגוריה של אודיו ומוזיקה, של לאן זה הולך להתפתח, ועוד כל מיני דברים שהוא יסביר לנו. So,
Okay.
let's start from the top, like, because me and you, we didn't had that conversation yet. So,
Yes.
like, let's tell us about your background, like musical background. I don't know, whatever you feel like sharing.
Yeah, no, I'll try to make it a slightly short version, but I guess we do have time. But no, so I started with playing piano, like I think most people do. My parents made me take lessons, but I moved on to drums next, and then guitar. And I think it was like around age 12 or something around then that I was in a band with friends, and we tried to start messing around with GarageBand. And
the age of 12.
slowly, yeah, so I would take my mom's computer and my mom's Mac and use GarageBand. And then also what would happen is I realized, like, since I played all three instruments, I realized, like, let me do the guitar part for my friend. He doesn't do it that well. Or, oh, let me, once they leave, let me fix the session here. And then over like the course of a year or two, I realized that that's pretty much what production is nowadays, meaning like producers now can do every part. We don't necessarily need to go and outsource the whole project, although a lot of the time you do need special skills. But so that's how I kind of started producing. I realized, like, oh, I could be the whole band just by myself, and that really like opened the door for me. And then yeah, I got into production like I got Pro Tools at maybe 15 or 14, 15.
Wow, that's
And
young,
then,
man.
yeah, no, and it was weird that I started with Pro Tools. But I think my drum teacher gave me that recommendation, and then that was that. But so yeah, was producing for a while, then kind of went back and forth between producing for myself and for other people. And then I guess it's important to talk about kind of my other experience, which is like in the world of business. So I worked at a marketing agency that did big commercials with companies like, Puma, McDonald's. And I was pretty much like involved with everything there because it was a small company.
Mm-hmm.
And so there I started working on music for commercials, whether it was like creating my own stuff for these commercials or working with like we did some licensing deals with artists like Drake or big people. And I
Mm-hmm.
would, also be responsible for just making that vision a reality. And that's kind of where my love for like music in any scenario came. So basically, I'm just super interested in how music affects consumers, users in any scenario, how sounds play a role in our life. And so for a while, I've kind of been on the business side of things while doing music for fun. And music has been a business on the side too. I have we'll talk about this, but I have an artist project and some other projects that have been able to be a key part of my life. But yeah, this role that I'm in now kind of combines my production background, audio engineering, with the business side of things, and it helps to know what goes into production, and what the world is all about. So yeah, now I'm kind of combining the two.
All right.
So,
Wow. You started really young, man.
yeah, no, and with Pro Tools sucked for about 2 years, and then I finally figured it out.
Yeah. Wow. That's that's impressive. I started with
Appreciate.
production, I think, after I had a band, like after we performed a
Yeah,
lot and stuff. And the production came, I think, in the age of somewhere about 25, after I did a bunch of music, like professional musician, and then
yeah.
dove into that.
But that's the difference. So you're probably a really good instrumentalist. You're really good at your
Yeah.
instrument. For me, I stopped practicing guitar, drums at 15, 16. I stopped caring about that
Yeah.
because the computer became my instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like give and take.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So let's talk a bit about Fiverr Pro and about like the offer it can give to musician. כאילו בוא נדבר על ההצעות שמוזיקאים מוכשרים וצעירים, כי פייבר פרו זה לא פלטפורמה למתחילים או משהו כזה,
Yeah.
זה לחבר'ה רציניים ומקצועיים שכבר עובדים בתחום, ורוצים להרחיב את העבודה שלהם מעבודה פרונטלית עם לקוחות מהארץ לדוגמה שהם מכירים, לעבודה אונליין עם כל העולם.
Yeah. לא, אז יש הרבה על מה לדבר.
כן.
I think as a whole, just important to talk about the mission of Fiverr in general, and then the mission of Pro.
אוקיי.
And I think Fiverr in general is aiming to change how the world works together. And I think in many ways, like we're not changing it. We're just kind of allowing the natural changes to happen in a smooth and like seamless transition. Because I think like just from my music experience, just in the past, before I became a Fiverr user or before really freelancing is as big as it was today, like we see how music happens, how music creation happens, and I have multiple songs with a singer out in the world with a few million plays with a singer from Canada that I've never met. And it's just a sign that for years now the world is shifting to say, um, digital things, and you don't need to be in the same city as your bandmate or
Mm-hmm.
your co-producer. But so Fiverr is really just trying to open up those international boundaries and really make it possible to find the perfect basis for your project or perfect producer. Um, and I think what we're trying to do with Pro is really just make that search that much easier. So like Jude and I, like Jude, you can talk about this too, but basically we're trying to not find the best of the best, but find the people that will make your life easier as a musician. I think we're
Mhm.
doing that. We look at a bunch of different things, experience, but also how they interact with customers. And I think it's super important now just if you want to be a good musician online, you also have to have the kind of customer experience and really know what it takes to be a good freelancer too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
what do you think? What do you think
So
separates?
it separates good sellers than less good sellers.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I think it's really a matter of experience of getting things done. Like your workflow is super important, and your experience of files and how to export, because it can, now I'm in a project that I'm exporting for like the fifth time for television, because it's the first time that I'm doing it for television,
nice.
and and I have no experience in that, so all the files are different, everything is very different. So I think this is
No,
one.
yeah, it's a skill to organize projects and
Yeah, ooh,
on top of things.
there is a skill, yeah. And except this, like to have a good online presence. I think this is also
Yeah,
something that we look at in and
yeah.
uh,
What do you think? Like people that aren't on freelance sites, like musicians and producers, what do you think the easiest way? Like, how do you think people have found jobs in the past? It's just word of mouth, or have you
mhm.
seen like musician friends do, I don't know, post on their socials? What's that like?
Yeah, so basically this is one of the most difficult thing in this industry, because usually it's word to mouth, and you כאילו בדרך כלל לוקח הרבה מאוד שנים כדי באמת להצליח להתפרנס מזה. To
Yeah,
make a living, you need like years of people that is like getting to know you and trust you more and more, and their friends and like that. And I think a lot of musicians in Israel feels that they don't have room in that. They don't have enough space for them in that field of, let's say, session musicians in Israel. There's like
yeah.
maybe 5 guitarists that are session musicians, and that's it.
No, that's
And
the beauty of Israel, but also the downside. It's
mm-hmm,
like there's if you're good, you're good. You're one of the best. But
mm-hmm.
if you're not in the top five, it's tough.
Yeah. אז אני חושב שנכון להיום אין הרבה דברים, אין הרבה מקומות לעשות אאוטסורסינג או למצוא עבודות.
Yeah. So no, I think that's why it's key to you have to like open yourself up to opportunities.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and it's tough as a musician now to say. First of all, it's tough to just do one thing.
mm-hmm,
It's even me as like I work at Fiverr, but and I do other stuff in music. Like I have multiple projects, multiple different ways of making things happen, whether it's producing my project and having money come in that way, performances, or producing for other people or engineering for others.
mm-hmm,
It's so tough to just do one thing now, but also it's tough in Israel, especially to close yourself off to just Israel. Like
mm-hmm.
the market is only so big, and there's so many people worldwide that would be interested in services. And I think now people are very open to working with people from any country. So I think now for Israelis, it's like it's important to look past Israel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I always like encourage my friends to gather up as much as income resources as they can. Like I always tell them, listen, when your schedule like you're gonna be full a year ahead, so then start like choosing the
Yeah,
projects. But for now,
yeah,
just like go for everything. Try to use as much opportunities as you can, and I think Fiverr is a very good opportunity. But
yeah,
if I'm getting into the head of the listeners, they're probably saying like something like, well, but there is also millions of sellers on Fiverr, and what would make people buy from me?
yeah. I think you could say that with it's easy to say that with a lot of things, a lot of different markets, but I think you have to realize like the market size is so big, and in the sense of like, if you create a coffee shop, like, okay, there's so many different places to buy coffee, but there's a lot of people drinking coffee. A lot of people need coffee, and people will come to you. It's a big enough market to
Mm-hmm.
find success, and so I think first of all, you need to be good. If you're good, people will want you. You need to have some value.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really just like everyone is unique, and the market is big, massive, like I said. And so I think there's so many different things you could do to stand out, even on a platform like Fiverr, where um, there might be thousands of people doing production, or thousands of guitarists. Um, there are ways to both bring people to your gig from outside the platform to make your gig really like stand out on Fiverr. Um, and yeah, and then like the most important thing is to just like commit to it, and if you have stuff on different sites, like be ready to answer, be ready to give good customer service, and then give good value.
Mm-hmm. So what are those ways? Let's say like you got me convinced, and I'm
Yeah.
going to open up a Fiverr account now, and I'm gonna apply for Pro. What would you recommend me to set, like, let's say, a few things to set as goals, and maybe things that I need to take care of?
So there's there's two things, like two different directions. One, I recommend you to really specialize in one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're good in a niche, that's really good. And if you build your whole profile around that niche, that's awesome. But at the same time, from like a musician producer, I think it could be beneficial in a strategic way to like diversify yourself. So I know those are two, you know what I mean by diversify yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Like those are two completely different things. But it depends how you do it and where you do it. But I think as a whole, as a musician, like I said before, like whether it's your own artist project, producing for others, it's important, like career wise, to have a few different things. It's
Yeah.
really tough now as a musician to just have one. Like, do you agree with that, or?
I agree with that, but I want to direct us back to the question
Yeah,
because I think
yeah,
like the diversity is outside of Fiverr, and what you
right.
say about going into a niche is inside of Fiverr platform, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All
So
right.
yeah, so like within Fiverr, I think sticking to a niche and like having a specialty is super valuable. And so like some tips for what I mean by that is if you if you are a session guitarist, don't just offer session, just general, I'll be your session guitarist, but say, explicitly like what genres you specify in,
Mm-hmm.
what artist you might sound like,
Mm-hmm.
whether you sound like a famous guitarist or that's your influence. And I know like that might sound like it's really boxing you in, but at the end of the day, when people are searching for, oh, I want some guy that can sound like the Edge from YouTube that knows how to make those
Mm-hmm.
effects, it's like he'll find you, and that's what you need to stand out. And there are people searching for very specific things. so that's, I think, number one of like making sure you're as specific as possible. And the cool thing about Fiverr is you can have multiple gigs. So you can start off, make 4 gigs, and I'll do your rock guitar, I'll do your soul, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's
so
one.
first of all is like finding your niche and try to be as specific as you can about it.
Yeah.
So people
And
can
then,
find you easily.
yeah, exactly. And then I think after that, in terms of goals, so another just general piece of advice is like things take time. So don't, make profiles on 10 accounts and then you get on 10 different sites and then you think, nothing's happening and then you give up. So just another thing is to make sure you are in it for the long haul uh, and try to, test things out, do, change things up in your gigs and really make sure that things are optimized, because things can take a month to get started, but then once the ball gets rolling, that's, it's rolling. So yeah, stay persistent. But then besides that, like on an actual gig level, I think also just a lot of musicians undersell themselves. They're not as confident as they could be or should be. And I think it's really important to write in your gigs, in your bio, all the impressive things you've done. People, for some reason, people don't like to do that, but there's a lot of people that have done some really cool stuff, whether it's like, producing a song that has a lot of plays or playing in good concerts. Or yeah, I think there's a lot of different things, but it's people like to see that. I think it's important to
Yeah.
showcase
This
them.
is such an important topic, I think first of all let's break it down because it's interesting. I think it's like two things. First of all, so your resume, your portfolio, your show reel, whatever, like how you showcase your past work, this is the most important thing that you have. Like I would invest so much money to give it to a good editor to make,
Right.
I don't know what, if maybe if animation can fit it, I would add animation to it
Yeah,
just for it to be as
such a good
fancy
point.
as it can be, because like this is people see that and they immediately feel how good it is, and it makes them
Yeah.
feel that their product is going to be that good.
Yeah.
So
No,
this is
100%.
so important.
And by the way, just about that, like I hate saying this, being in the position I'm in of trying to have really good quality on the platform, but it's like fake it till you make it. Like you
Hmm.
have to,
For
even if you
sure.
don't have that crazy experience, like just give off that vibe. And nowadays it's really easy to, like you said, like find a video editor, find a graphic designer, like have that branding down, create a good video. And
Hmm.
it's like if you don't have that experience, just fake it and like look good. Like
Yeah.
that's such a good point, that it's so important to just look the part.
Yeah, I think now that I'm looking at show reels, like since I've done
Yeah,
it for my own, I've done like the best show reel I can do. So I'm always looking at them and I'm saying, okay, it's not gonna be like that, but it's gonna be close to that. Because this is the
yeah,
best thing the guy can ever deliver. But it's gonna be
but
close to that. So
yeah,
that's good enough
and
for me.
and it really is just like you said, like okay, whatever, just big picture, invest $100 up front, like invest in yourself off the bat, like knowing that it's going to come back. So invest $100 in that video or that, um, or like invest the time in creating the perfect demo or reel, because like it will come back to
Hmm.
benefit you.
Yeah, for sure. So then that's one thing. The other thing that's related to this topic is I think like from now. Oh, you said about pricing yourself. Don't price yourself too low, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's another really good point. If you're, it's obviously tempting in the beginning if you're creating an account on Fiverr, another site, to really try to price yourself low to to get people to come in at first. And I think that's like a fine strategy in some situations. But as a whole, you have to realize like everything is branding and marketing. So like we're talking about the video, if you invest in a good video or make a good logo, and have great samples, like your price will tell people more about you than all of that. And so I think if you want to set the story that you're a premier, session musician or producer, like you have to price yourself accordingly. And like, again, you have to be patient. People will come and like you'll get traffic at a certain point. But it's, if you want people to take you seriously, you can't charge $10 to do a whole song. So it's all about branding and positioning.
Yeah, which is also another fascinating thing to talk about, because there's this point of view, but I feel that people can take it too as a black and white. So because we have this conversation like around at least my community of pricing yourself low and high and benefits and stuff like that, and I think that I totally agree, and especially when I started working on Fiverr and saw those applications that price themselves low, and it just looks like no professional will go to price himself low. So it's the most obvious thing that is not a professional. Like you're giving yourself up when you price yourself low. But I think there's also a lot of things you can do for free that might not give you money, but can benefit you in other ways, of like getting to know people or getting your first foot at a door you want to get in.
Definitely.
And a lot of stuff, like even getting more customers. There's a lot of stuff you can do, even for free, and it doesn't contradict each other.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think it really depends on where you are in your career and what the project is. Like, if it can get you, I'm a big believer in what you just said. Like, I've done a lot of work for free or for very little money that just I know like will come back to benefit me later on. Even if it hasn't yet, I still feel don't regret doing that. But it's important to know kind of like when that is and when that might be, like what type of person could help you in the future, or what type of project. Like, okay, if you're trying to get into sound design freelancing, if you've never done a game, sound design a game, but you want to get into that, and your friend is starting an app, do it for free. That's great to have in your portfolio. But at the same time, if it's like more of a public image, creating a brand on your Fiverr gig or something, I think it's like we said before, like it's part of the image. But like I definitely agree with what you said. It's give and take. You got to do both. And also, just as musicians, it's so, in general, as a freelancer, it's tough to price your work. But like coming from the world of music too, it's tough to think what the value of our time or our contribution to a project is. So it's a tough job to price yourself. Also, I just say, coming from production standpoint, where a lot of pricing can be on royalties or publishing, it gets even more complicated. And so it's important to, like, as a freelancer, to really spend time thinking about that and learning about what goes into publishing, licensing, everything. So
yeah, we have an episode about that. So what tip would you give to someone that's trying to price himself but is not sure which price he should put?
I think if you're just starting off, go, say, like, think about what you would like to make an hour, in an hour, and maybe go like a bit less than that if you're just starting off. Nothing crazy. Don't try to do some crazy, $5 deal to get people in, and then you'll get your ratings up. but just maybe go a bit under what you usually would. If you want 100, go 80. But then I think like once you feel a bit more established on whatever platform you're on, whether it's Fiverr or somewhere else, I think definitely just make sure your brand is consistent. If your gig looks good and you have good ratings, go 20% more than what you think you're worth. Because I think people will pay and they'll view you as worth that if you show value yourself.
I would add another thing to that, and just try to put yourself in the buyer position and go to Fiverr and try to buy your services and see like what you come up to. And
also
because you can
me,
see the cheap ones and you can see the expensive one, and you can kind of tell where you fit in that picture.
100%. Have you messed around with selling on Fiverr yet or no?
I did it once. I did a saxophone gig.
Because it's so
Years ago.
Nice. No, I'm now selling on Fiverr too, and I think like one piece of advice that like comes up from my experience is like set a good price on your gig, like really show your value, but then also don't be afraid to negotiate. Is another thing. So if you leave room, if you set your price as $500, but you're willing to do it for less, basically just people come in with the concept and feeling that you're a high level freelancer, that you deserve that money. And then from there you can negotiate. And I think like every platform gives you the room to talk before you purchase. And I think for me, just like looking at my experience, that's really helped me, because there's some projects that I'm willing to do for 300, but since I price myself at 500, people like know, okay, it's going to be more expensive, and then negotiations are easier. But yeah, it's tough.
And it makes them happy eventually.
Yeah.
To buy a gig in a discount.
True. But now it's so fun. So fun working with people from like random projects and across the world, and then like seeing what they do with what you give them. It's interesting.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Okay, so we talked about a few stuff. We talked about niching yourself and expressing that niche as specifically as you can. We talked about being just look at the long run and be patient, because it's a lifetime experience. Really, you're building a business, and I also think you should look at it as a yearly income and not as a monthly income or something like that. Because if you get like 5, 6, 10 gigs a year, it can really like benefit your income.
Especially if like I said before, if you're outside of Fiverr, diversifying yourself. I think if you put out your own music and that gets 200,000 plays a year, and then you're doing stuff on Fiverr, and then you're maybe doing some shows, I think it's important to think about the big picture, put it all together, and really like I said this, but as artists, like in this day and age, unless you're streaming millions of streams, like you have to do a bit of everything. You have to invest in every type of stream.
So yeah, that's one more thing. Another thing that I noticed that before, when I went to Fiverr like a few years ago, when I wanted to submit a gig, I saw all these like level 2 sellers with 2,000 reviews, and it was very overwhelming, because I was like, what? Well, I'm never gonna get there, and I can't compete with those people. And from being in Fiverr, I know that it's not the case. Like, you start getting badges after 20 or 10, 20, 40 reviews. You're starting getting those badges, so it's not as far as it looks.
Also, we do invest a lot to make sure new sellers get an opportunity. I think like that's one thing that makes Fiverr special, is you don't necessarily need to like go on your Facebook and try to bring people in. Like we really, if your gig is good, we really try to bring impressions and views to your gig. And so like it might take some time, like I said, but that's the goal. Like you will get exposure. And also like there are more competitive categories. Obviously, if you're trying to be a logo designer, that's going to be tough. There's like tens of thousands of logo designers. Like we said before, like there's so many ways to stand out, and there's so many people looking for different things. Like you're gonna be patient, but like things will happen.
And now it's an amazing opportunity to go on Fiverr Pro because it's still new, and there's some categories that are not that how do you say it, like with too much people inside.
Yeah. By the way, that's another thing. Just talking about our work on Pro, just general for applications. Pro has made me realize, just when you apply to something, like think about don't say why it would be great for you, but think about the people in the other position too, like how you could benefit the other freelancers or the platform as a whole. And so I think like you just said it right there, like find areas that don't have a lot of people, whether you're sound designer now doing Foley for video games, like that's niche, and say, hey, I can be the one person doing that. And then you get a lot more of a spotlight, and yeah, like you know a lot about that, because we see if people are doing something that's less in demand, it gets a boost.
Yeah, it's also, I think it's great what you mentioned. It's the state of mind of when you come into propose yourself, is that you're looking for a win-win deal. It's not that someone is doing you a favor. You're contributing to the platform, and the platform contributes to you. So if you come with that approach, I think it resonates.
It's a really good point. Like we're helping each other at that point. It really is.
Yeah. All right. So those were like a few tips on Fiverr and Fiverr Pro, and I think we kind of covered it. You have something more to add on this topic?
No, I think that's it. Just in general, it's an awesome experience, like I said, to be able to work with people around the world, and really just like kind of a necessity in this day and age, in my point of view as a musician. I think there's no reason, if you want to do this full time, I think there's no reason to not open yourself up to these types of opportunities. Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Yes. All right. Amazing. So maybe tell us a bit about your work as a producer with freelancers. I really love to hear about it, about your songs, millions of plays. How do you get it? How do you get these millions of plays too?
It's a grind. It's like you got to put a lot of work into it, like we said. But no. So I produce for under an artist project that's my name, Adam Fine. But then I've also done production for a few other people. That's kind of part of the project that I'm in. And over the course of the past like 2 years, I probably have maybe 10, 12 million plays on Spotify and Apple Music. I think, like, first of all, just the first question you asked, like working with freelancers, like I said, I have a few songs with one singer that I've known for years that I've never met. She's extremely talented, and it just shows the possibilities of kind of creating relationships online and really finding the best partners like around the world.
Wait, so let's stop on that. This is really interesting for me. When you go about a project like that, how does it work financially? Like you are the entrepreneur and you pay for everything and you get the revenues, or you split it? How does it happen?
So it really, like, it varies case by case. But I think, like, I mean, generally speaking, like, yeah, you'll put the money in up front, But some artists will want a revenue, like a split, like a royalty split. So with my vocalist, like we'll do 50-50 with a lot of projects. With some it's less, 70-30, depending on kind of the involvement. But with other people, like in the case of a mastering engineer, which, you know, I have a mastering engineer in London, I have a singer in LA now, like just people all over. So some people will just be a fee. You just have to pay that up front and hope you'll get it back just through streams and through other revenues. But then other people will, like, you know, I'm working with a singer now from Wisconsin or somewhere in the US. And he's, you know, he believes in the project. So he's down to not get paid up front, but instead get paid in a share of the track. So we'll put this on. But it
you're
is, like I
basically
said,
setting the rules up front with the
yeah.
collaborators.
Yeah, and I think it's important. It's usually important to do that.
Up front.
If you don't know especially if you don't know the person. If it's a friend, it's like, okay, maybe you can get away with it. But yes, yeah, that's important. And I've had awesome experiences. Like, I wouldn't be where I was today if I didn't find these singers all over the world, or mixing and mastering engineers, all people I need. And then from the marketing perspective, it's I have to give a lot of credit to my best friend and manager, Zach. Zach now, he works as a artist manager. He lives in New York, and he together with him, I think I've been really aggressive and just on top of things with marketing our music. I think whatever platform it was, you have to think. So we started with SoundCloud, like, I'm sure you're familiar, but back when SoundCloud was you know, the place to be. And then it went into Spotify, Apple, but whatever the platform is, you have to think, like, what are the shortcuts here? Who are the gatekeepers, so to say, and like, what can I do to get in front of them and to get them to let me in. And so if it's on SoundCloud, like, this doesn't sound crazy now, but like, I have, you know, 3 to 5 million plays on SoundCloud, which is a lot for like SoundCloud range. And I think, like, back then we did stuff that no one else was really doing, and just simple stuff like compiling lists of repost accounts. So accounts that like are specific genres, and they just, you know, SoundCloud has a feed, so it's different. And we would message like thousands of them for every release. And then through that, we'd build relationships. We'd, like, you know, certain people would like our music more than others. Other people would ask for money, and you have to be strategic about that, because again, if you think you'll stream 100,000 times, you have to realize how much money that's going to be, and like, invest accordingly. But I'm a big believer, like, I've reinvested a lot of my money into my music, and like, you have to invest to get plays. And so whether it's like Facebook ads or paying to get into a playlist, like, you will have to put some money into it, but it can benefit a lot. So in my case, it has benefited. But so yeah, my biggest advice is, like, figure out who the gatekeepers are. So in SoundCloud, it was those repost accounts. Now it's the people that make playlists on Spotify. It's getting a lot harder now to do it. You really need kind of Spotify to be on board. But now how to kind of beat that, I think one really underrated thing is find a good distributor, music distributor. You know what I mean by that?
What, like DistroKid, CD Baby, all those?
Yeah. So if you can put, those are now one of the few ways to really, like, I don't know, not differentiate yourself, but to really get in front of the gatekeepers, you need someone else on your team right now. And if you can find a good distributor that can put some resources towards you. So for example, there's a lot that say they'll distribute your music, but you can also submit to them to maybe get featured in something,
Mm.
for them to pitch your song.
Yeah, City Baby has this like with their pro service.
Yeah.
They're
So like
offering to pitch for licensing and for other stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and so for me also now recently I've been using STEM music. Um, and they take a percentage of the streams. So because of that, they have incentive um, to make, have the songs do well. So like they, if your song is up and coming, for example, I had a song just last month that was a cover song, and it was doing really well. And because of that, like they realized the potential, and they went to Spotify and said, can we get this into a playlist? What can we do with this? And because they make money out of that too.
So how can they go to Spotify? They have
Because
a link with
they
them?
have the connection. Yeah, they have the links with them.
Oh, it's actually it's personal connections.
Yeah, people.
Yeah.
It's if you can make personal connections in music, do it. But it's getting tougher and tougher with just the people at Spotify, Amazon, Apple, like controlling a lot of that flow. But do things like I did with SoundCloud back in the day. Now you can reach out to independent playlist creators.
Yeah, so wait, let's stop for 1 minute at that SoundCloud tip.
Yeah.
So it sounds really overwhelming. So how did you did it? Like what, you had an Excel sheet with a lot of emails? Like how did it work?
Yeah. It's something like now there's a lot of companies that have made this process simpler. So if like there's a company Repost that was purchased by SoundCloud, who helps with this, or also for blogs there's Submit Hub. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
So we were doing all that manually, and we'd have Google Sheets of hundreds of rows, and like contact information, everything, and just go through it and spend hours doing that. And like I think it couldn't tell you how many hours we put in, but it worked. It's like
But it was a lot. Like it wasn't like an easy job.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to do that now, but at the same time, that means more people are doing it. And now also when we started kind of shifting our focus to Spotify, we would message, find people that made playlists that are in our genre, find them on Instagram, Facebook, message them. And back, 3 years ago, they would be like, "Oh, sure, I guess I could put it in." Now, if you find these same people, they say, "Yeah, I can put it in $100. You tell me," and it's like it's getting more. They're realizing their power.
Yeah.
So I think just really like, but being organized with it, like we said with with files, like it's important to like do the dirty work. Like the dirty work goes a long way.
Yeah.
In marketing and in the strategy.
So you're talking about trying to get into playlist.
Yeah.
Also probably Spotify official playlist, but also independent artist playlists, independent creators. And you have another tip for Spotify except like doing those like playlist work, Submit Hub, Repost?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's like everything is specific, like case by case, but just the biggest advice isn't going to be something good, but like be creative and think like, what aren't people doing? So like just some ideas, like if there are some Twitch streamers that you like that play music in a specific genre, like go out to create a database of 200 Twitch streamers that play music in their background, gamers, and message them and see what they can do. Like it's little things. Or if there are, same with YouTubers, whatever. So
yeah, it's just everything. Like people watch content all day. Just get in touch with the people that are distributing that content and just offer them a win-win situation. You can have my music
100%.
if you like it, You can have it for free, and I can have like listeners, like.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be creative with it.
Mm-hmm,
And like the other, Twitch is one example, or then go to TikTok and do,
mm-hmm.
TikTok can really be hit or miss. But talk to creators on TikTok, see what you can do. And don't just, that doesn't mean go to the top 20 biggest TikTokers
Yeah.
and send them your song. It means go to someone with 5,000
Mm-hmm.
followers, which is like nothing in TikTok numbers, and really and give them value. Give them your song, say here's what's happening. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of creative things you can do, but it is dirty work. Like it takes a while. You can't just run a Facebook campaign and like let things
No,
go.
it
But
feels
but yeah,
like
that's
a new world that there's not a lot of people that understands it and knows how to
yeah.
operate within.
Yeah, and I think like this also not the best piece of advice, but like relationships are number one.
Mm-hmm.
My the friend Zach that I mentioned before, that's kind of like I'm fortunate. A lot of my success has come from him building more relationships. So that's in that case, I connected myself to someone good and ambitious, and that has helped me. But he's been able to make big improvements over the years, um, and really like relationships that he's made has helped us in different ways. Whether it's like giving me an opportunity to remix some artist's song that like we wouldn't have if he didn't know someone, or him being connected to someone who knows someone at Spotify who gets us
Mm-hmm.
in a playlist.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes time to build those connections, and you can do that as an artist or you can do that on the business side. But but don't second guess. Like everyone can provide you with value and build your
Yeah.
network. So it's important.
Yeah, and this is also such an important topic, I think, and we can have a full podcast just on that. And I think what I would like to mention in this connection talk is I totally agree, like connections are everything. But I also know the feeling as a young independent artist that is like listening to something and like, okay, connection. So how do I do it?
Yeah,
And the mindset is not where it needs to be. So the mindset uh, going about connections is just like meeting new people and having friends and being kind and being nice and being
yeah,
like a cool person, and you are a cool person, so just like put it
yeah.
out. But a lot of young
Other,
artists, and this is also something that's been talked about a lot in certain groups like lately, that young artists tend to approach um, like music industry people and other like good connections with all their frustration about the music industry. So it's really
yeah,
important to leave it out, and like you just need to make a lot of friends. That's it.
yeah. Two comments about that. One is like again, that's the benefit of being in Israel. Like everyone is a few degrees away.
Mm-hmm.
In I think like if in the U.S. everyone is within 5 degrees, in Israel it's two
Yeah,
or less.
yeah.
Um, and so really like it's a huge advantage. And then I think the other thing, like something that you just mentioned, is don't also just think about networking and making connections in terms of like networking up, but also like if you're a producer, talk to people at your level, like make connections laterally as well,
Mm-hmm.
or make friends with TikTokers that are small, not massive people, but people that are on your level, let's say, because that's the group of people that's also going to grow with you, and then you guys will all be tight kind of as you
Mm-hmm.
rise together, and can help each other along the way.
Totally
So
agree
yeah,
with that. Yeah. Use one hand to to be helped and the other hand to help someone from below.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, so this is really important stuff I feel. All right, so we got some talk about Fiverr, we got some talk about Spotify. You want to finish it by just letting us know what you're up to now with your musical project, with stuff we can
Yeah,
follow?
yeah. So I have, in general, most of my projects you'll see just go to Fiverr Music and Audio. That's what I'm working on day to day. But actual music projects, you can have, you can listen to my music that I released in the past under just Adam Fine on Spotify. But I have a new artist project that's called All Caught Up. Nothing live on Spotify yet, but you can find us on Instagram, which, by the way, if you look at our Instagram, it's another kind of growth tactic. We're really focused on building up the Instagram first. We're at like 3,000 followers right now, just by providing other content. But so check us out on Instagram. It's all caught up with 3 L's. So not 2 L's,
Te-
but 3 L's.
I want to hear more about it, like about this strategy.
No, just basically now you want
Yeah.
just basically we're the goal, the mission of uh, the message of the artist project all caught up is this concept of kind of disconnecting and making sure people aren't spending too much time on devices, but also that people are appreciating everything that there is in the world. And so what we doing to kind of to discuss that is we have a bit of like a quote page on Instagram where we like I don't want to say we're building a community, but we're really focusing on this feeling, this like this vibe, um, and building up a quote page there. That quote page will transition into a more like artist page over
A
time.
quote page is a page with just like a simple sentences, like nice things.
It's like a graphic design heavy page. So we work with freelance graphic designers, some from Fiverr, some not from Fiverr, to make it like really cool looking too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But it's about like building this audience uh, that isn't just there for music per se,
mm-hmm.
but over time will like transition into to showcase the projects that I'm working on and the new songs. But I think it just goes to show that you need to have like more than one kind of not not income stream, but you need to have more than one thing drawing people in.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to just make good music. You need to
Mm-hmm.
also have something engaging somewhere else. And so I think just like being creative about that, thinking about different ways to bring people in, and doing that early on, like is super beneficial.
So there's
So,
two interesting things that I've heard in what you said, and one of them is actually the just the understanding of you guys taking a musical project, and you're
yeah,
saying um, we first want to like what is the musical product is talked about. We want to output it in a graphic way, in an Instagram engaging way before we even put out music. This is
yeah,
one interesting topic that I think like most artists don't even think of that direction. They don't know that it's possible to do
yeah.
something like that. But the second interesting thing that I want to ask you is like, so what made you said we're gonna focus only on Instagram now and not do everything simultaneously?
Like other platforms, you mean, or
Yeah, like
other?
Spotify music, why not everything together? Why like first of all just this?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, like I said, so this is with the same guy, Zach. He's come up a few times, but I think it's because we've tried those other strategies. This is our third or fourth kind of project together, whether it's all stuff that I produced or for other people working with other artists. Like he
Mm-hmm.
manages
Mm-hmm.
other very successful artists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think this is just something different. This is something that we wanted to try, wanted to see what this approach would be like. And so far, just building up the Instagram alone is going well. It's so we don't know if all those people are going to be interested in my music.
Yeah.
I can't tell you if it's going to work, but what we're doing is building up this audience, like, and that's the most important thing in today's day and age. Like, even if, it's just about building a good core following.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have like 2,000 committed followers, say committed, like loosely, just people that like your music, it can take you really far. 2,000 is a big number. It can be way less than that too.
Yeah.
But so this is just a test, a trial, and music will be coming out probably in like 5-6 weeks. So it's still a ways away, and we've been building this up for maybe 2 months now. But so yeah, it's just a trial. Like, goes to my point about being creative.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to think differently.
Exactly. Wow, this is super creative. That's so cool, man.
Yeah, and I'll send you the link after.
Yeah, I'd love that.
But so, yeah, I think that's my main thing.
That's great stuff, man. This is so interesting. Like, it's really crushing the boundaries and everything, like, is changing now, and we have to act different and to be creative and to understand this game. It's a different game now.
Yeah, no, and it goes back to like so many things we talked about in terms of like freelancing, Spotify, everything's connected. It's like diversify, don't just think about one thing. Be creative and be persistent, like do the dirty work. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about is like the same, and whether it's freelancing, whether it's putting out music, like it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everything you do, like the things that takes time, like Fiverr, it takes time. If you start a YouTube channel, it takes time. If you open up an Instagram account, it takes time. But you're not only benefiting like the audience and the connections and like people that can work with you. You're also benefiting. You're building an audience. You're building a fan base. And it's like it has value. It's worth money.
Big time. I don't want to, we can wrap it up, but I just want to like bring in one more point of like, we talked about freelancers and customer service, meaning like really just give them the best experience, best value. And I think that connects a lot to artists also. If you put out merch and you have 15 people buy it, like those 15 people need a DM on Insta. They need a thank you note with the merch. Like, really just care about customer experience and like care about every single fan. Until you have, like, talk to me when you have maybe 1 million followers, but before that, like, give everyone, like, unique attention.
Wow, this is so important. And over deliver, always over deliver.
Yeah,
like
I'll
if
say
if you have a gig, just like do more, work extra hours, give the customer like the feeling of, wow, who is that seller? I'm not going to any other seller again in my life.
100%. I'll say like the biggest piece of advice that my boss at Fiverr has given me is do things that don't scale. And so what I mean by that is like, usually people are always thinking of like, oh, I have to send an email to everyone. That's going to take so long. Like, I'll automate. I'll send the same message to 100 people. That's scaling something. But what he said is like, do things purposefully that don't scale. Like, send that individual handwritten card with that t-shirt, or reach out to every single one that, if someone stories your song, like reach out to every single one, offer him some discount, like do things that don't make sense to scale. And that'll really help you in the long run.
Awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. Really good.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, man, for coming and discussing with us. It's been a pleasure for me, and I'm sure for everyone who listens to it can find a lot of value. Are you still with us?
Hopefully, yeah.
You get a bit disconnected in my screen, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Adam. I'll leave a link to everything we talked about, starting from Fiverr Pro to Adam Fine, to the new Instagram and musical project. Everything will be in the comments.
Awesome.
And thank you for everyone, for all the listeners. And I'm gonna see you next time. Music business.